3 or 4 minutes. So we'll see how this goes. Basically, for accessing buildings, where I see it a lot from health and safety, I see problems with getting to buildings, around buildings, getting out of buildings is usually a real problem. But I also see issues with service, where people aren't treated with any kind of dignity, very much on that second slide. The first slide is pretty much an office that I came across in London, not this particular one, but it was one very similar. And I got to it and I didn't know how to get in, and the chap that showed me around said, "Oh, don't worry, everybody has this problem," which kind of made me think, well, why have you left it like this? Why can't you put something there that actually just show you where to go? It's hard, but you've got to go around and start thinking in a slightly different way. So they tell me, what should we do, Pat? And I said, well, you need an access order. And then the question comes straight back at me and say, well, what's an access order? And I go, it's basically when you start going around the building and you start comparing the approach, getting around the building, and anywhere, any service involved. Can you hear people in the offices? Can you see signs, whatever? All sorts of things based against British standards, technical information from building codes, and what's currently best practice, which is evolving all the time as we're learning more and more. It covers all the areas that Sharon's mentioned for the impairments of ability, mental, visual and hearing, and anything else that comes to mind. It's fluid. The audit, well, it can cover everything. I mean, I'll start looking at car parks, I'll start looking at everything, I'll start looking at door handles, I'll start looking at welfare facilities, I'll start giving facilities managers grief to find out if they've actually sort of maintained anything. There is no point in having an alarm in a disabled toilet or a unisex accessible toilet if it isn't tested and it doesn't work. And yes, we've come across that because no one ever tries the alarm. There's also some training, but I might even look at your internet. I might look at what you've put on the web, and when you start giving directions or maps on the web for certain areas, can say, this is great, except everything's in font 2, I can't see it. The outcomes of the audit, well, it's great. I'll be coming out and saying, you've got all these barriers, you've got all these problems, and then I'll say, yeah, but what now? And they go, aha, yes, right. We'll have to come up with some reasonable adjustments. Something realistic. Sharon's mentioned cost, but it's also on the layout of the building. These factors start coming in because there are some buildings which basically you're never going to be able to do anything. It's just the design of the building, how old they are. Other parts you might be able to do something, some things you may be actually totally redesign. We'll start looking at the health and safety. We knew we were coming here, so we asked for a ramp to get up for Anne. They've got 2 years to put it in, there's no worries. Yeah, it's not here. We could have put one at the front, but then that would have been a health and safety problem because we would have all tripped over it, so we would have put it on the side. We start thinking around, out of the box a bit. Then we'll start thinking, well, this is great. We can help someone with vision impairment get through, or mobility impairment. But what about other people? Maybe, the elderly might appreciate slightly better access. Perhaps somebody who's pushing a pram with young kids. Perhaps somebody who's temporarily had an impairment. I mean, we've got 2 colleagues now taken out thanks to It's a Knockout, sort of turning up on crutches, and we've got to find a way of getting them in. So there's all sorts of issues. And don't forget, it's not just getting them in, it's getting them out. And most facilities managers and health and safety people know about personal emergency evacuation plans. That covers everybody. So if you have anybody that's going to be a bit slower, you have to start thinking things through. So we will come out with something that we think was reasonable, but we will discuss it with the client because we don't know how much money you've actually got. In small shops and multinationals, you've got a slightly different type of depth of pocket. They'll then say to me, great, is it legal? And I went, well, actually, talk to Sharon. But no, access orders aren't actually anywhere in the legislation. And I'm not really going to talk about the legislation much because I don't want to embarrass myself against Sharon. But you start asking yourself a simple question. How can you put in something realistic, reasonable, if you haven't looked to see where the barrier might be? It should be done by somebody who kind of knows what they're looking for, with experience. I've got 30 years of health and safety experience. I mean, I was trained by somebody who had an arm that no longer functioned, and he stood like that because it was a dead weight. And 30 years ago, he came out with something I've heard since quite often, but basically saying to me that disability wasn't contagious, but their attitude to it is. And then you can see that when you go around buildings, when you see things which are just unreasonable. When you go into the disabled toilet and you find it's a very convenient store and you can't actually get to the toilet. Training of staff is paramount. You know, there's a care home over here that's got hearing groups, and the staff don't know what it's for, don't know how to use it. So it was a great idea a few years ago, but as staff have changed, it's kind of lost its effectiveness, so it's no longer a reasonable adjustment. If you do all that, and you put the training in, and you review to make things are still working, checking the alarms and whatever else, then you'll be deemed to have taken reasonable steps, just in case anybody starts complaining, or there's a claim, or anything like that. And that's been pretty much the experience in the UK. And they say, well, what are you interested in, Pat? I don't know, football? No. What are you interested in when you go around? Well, I'll be looking at everything. I'll be looking at car parking. I'll be looking at the approach. You know, am I going to be able to trip up? Is the paving slightly lifted so someone with visual impairment will just trip over it? Are there cracks appearing so someone's going to find the wheelchair is going to get stuck? We went to Hovdo Park yesterday, and I noticed that the pavement on one side is really lifting. So basically, as you're moving the wheelchair, you're always being sort of pushed towards the right, just slightly, but hopefully it won't get any worse. If I take people say they've got a ramp, I think, great. How do you know you're going to need it? Is there going to be somebody outside going, you know, or are they going to use the phone, or have you got an intercom? Where is it? How long does it take to get out? Are you going to leave somebody sitting in the rain for 5 to 10 minutes whilst everybody's walking in and out of the building, whilst they're just sitting in the rain waiting for you to find that ramp? Oh, we'll leave it out all the time. No, you can't do that. It's a health and safety issue. You're going to strip over it. You'll get into the claim. It's thinking things through. When you start moving into the building, you start looking round and trying to think in a different way. If there are a whole bunch of shadows, and these are shadows, and I've seen this a couple of times, somebody with a vision impairment might see that and think that there are steps, and they put some concern depending where it is. There's issues come through like that. You look at a wonderful reception and you're just thinking, oh great, I've got an assault course to get to the reception desk. Somehow I've got to get past all these tables and chairs. You think to yourself, now I've got to the desk, I'm having to look up. That's not very dignified. The bottom picture is more of a reasonable adjustment, and it's great because not only have they made part of the reception desk lower, but they've kicked it out so that the wheelchair can go underneath it, not to the side. And that's brilliant, because when I turn up, and I'm almost 60 now, when I turn up I can get a chair and I can sit there to look after my sciatica. So that's fantastic, I've got another use. I wander around, and there's a certain bank I know, they've got fob access in several parts of the building. And it's brilliant, it's about here. Terrific, until you're sitting down. Then it's kind of up here. Oops, a bit hot. But you get so a bit worried. We went to a hotel yesterday, they showed me their lift. It's brilliant. It opened up, you could get a wheelchair just about in it. And I said, if you were in a car and you're in a parking space, how would you reverse? And hotel manager went, well, look at my mirrors. I said, yeah, same thing here. If you reverse out, they're probably going to hit someone. Why can't you put a mirror in the lift? And that is a requirement. The toilets were brilliant. Go somewhere, white on white. Absolutely great if you've got a vision impairment. Now I can't quite make out where everything is. So a slight problem. There were other problems there as well, but we won't dwell because at the time, and toilets, let's talk about it. I'll start looking at storage. Have you got storage, which is in these lovely cupboards, which are actually the same colour as the walls? So now, someone with vision impairment, or something like this, Sharon at the moment without her glasses, might have trouble actually seeing where the cupboards are. And then when you can get into the cupboards, the thing they want is too high. We're back to a height issue. We'll look at signs. This is more of a health and safety example, but I go around and I try and find out, well, how can I find myself going from A to B? And some signs, you get these lovely clear perspex things with a bit of fancy writing on. And again, they're very difficult to see. And you'll find that as people get older, they might start feeling it's very difficult to see. So it's not just thinking, ooh, we're thinking ahead. I'll start looking at the office environment, how people are moving around. Are there any pinch points? What's the noise level like? I'll be looking at doors. Handles are great. These other handles are a bit difficult for certain people to open. Fire alarms again, where are they? Can they be seen easily by someone with vision impairment? Are they too high? Health and safety, pure health and safety, what's the fire escape like? Autism is an interesting one, but people don't come into it too much. But you get sensory overload, not just from colours and masses of patterns, but also from smells. That certain perfumes and things that they put in the toilets are actually it's just too much information. It causes sensory overload. So that's something else to think about, which isn't quite that obvious. We're not interested in the wards. I mean, I could go to town. This one award in Southeast Asia. I mean, let's not even go there. Physical adjustments. You've got 2 years. 2 years is not a long time to do these things, but it can be cheap. It can be just putting a slap of paint on so you can make things stand out. It can be that you just buy a portable hearing loop. They're about anything between 100 and 150 pounds, depending where you go. Some office chairs are about 400 or 500 pounds. You can have a quiet room for people who can hear, but not that well. And working in office at certain times can be very, very, very difficult. But of course, that's a great quiet room for us as well, if we've got a deadline to work to. If you've got a hearing disability, you can sit around and say, I'll never hear the fire alarm. Well, put a flashing light there. They're available. They're not that expensive. So, I've done this very, very quickly. And you can chat to me afterwards. I'll be here I'm here all week. But you can chat to me. But I'll leave you with this. Start thinking about access now. Find out where you are. Undertake an audit. See what you've got. From that and what comes out of it, start developing a plan. And that should include training and how you're going to maintain that plan. Agree your budget. I mean, it's great. It starts off at 2 years, things start to accelerate. So don't always put a bit of a factor to it. And 2 years. 2 years is not long. 2 years, as Sharon said, to come up with a plan. Maybe deal with your landlord. Go find an architect. Agree after the third attempt what the plan's going to be. Take it through planning. Finding a contractor, which is going to probably get more and more difficult the next 2 or 3 years. Getting that built. Then telling the contractor what he's done wrong and making him repair it, which we've had to do with one of our things. We've been doing it, it's been about 18 months? It's taken us 18 months with a ramp, a toilet and a few extra rooms. So I can tell you now, you need to start thinking about it now. I've really pushed this very quick for time constraints, but I will be here afterwards if anybody wants to talk to me about this. Thank you.